Hello everyone, this is Saleh Jaberi, a partner of ESK International Law Firm. Welcome to my second video. I'm going to talk about one of the major issues of Iran that discourages many foreign investors. Yes, you guessed it right, it's sanctions. Well, first of all, let's define sanctions in the international law. Sanctions are a series of punitive actions made by some countries toward another country to put pressure on that nation to comply with some rules, regulations, or international norms. Let's also look into the background of Iran sanctions. The very first sanctions imposed by Jimmy Carter, the U.S. president in 1979 because of the hostage crisis taking place in Tehran. After the hostage crisis solved by another agreement in 1981, some of the blocked assets of Iran released by executive orders. But the important point is that Jimmy Carter opened a floodgate, and imposing sanctions became a major component of U.S. policy against Iran during all the following years. Many reasons have been mentioned for putting sanctions on Iran. Supporting act of terrorism, military program, and nuclear program are the major reasons for putting sanctions on Iran. During all these years, United States tried very hard to convince other European countries and United Nations to follow sanctions regime against Iran and put utmost pressure on this nation. United States issued many laws, regulations, and executive orders against Iran. It's interesting that there is no other country that have these large number of rules and regulations about another country that United States has about Iran. United States passed many important rules and regulations to put sanctions. The major one are Comprehensive Iran Sanctions Accountability and Divestment Act of 2010, Iran Transactions Regulations that put sanctions on goods, shipment, insurance, and luxury goods of Iran, and also Iran Sanctions Act 1996, which is famous as ISA, which is a most important and major U.S. law which put sanctions on Iran energy and expanded on subsequent years and extended to other industries of Iran. There are also National Defense Authorization Act that put sanctions on Iran's central bank, and Iran Freedom and Counter Proliferation Act, IFCA, that also expanding sanctions on Iran. As you saw, there are many rules, executive orders, and regulations that put pressure on Iran. In addition to United States, the United Nations Security Council also passed some resolutions against Iran during 2006 up until 2008. Many other countries apparently joined the sanctions regime to keep their close relationship with United States or avoid any negative action by US and other European countries. Let's also look into the European Union sanctions. After the passage of resolutions in June 2010, European Union sanctions on Iran became nearly as extensive as those of the United States. European countries also follow US and UN sanctions that created an integrated pressure on Iran and its economy. But after several time-consuming negotiations, an agreement on the Iran nuclear program reached in Vienna on 14 July 2015 between Iran and the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council: China, France, Russia, United Kingdom, United States, plus Germany. Under the framework agreement, Iran agreed to restrict its nuclear program and also accept a wider inspection on its nuclear program under a framework deal. In return, US and other signatories of the deal accepted to remove sanctions on Iran. Unfortunately, on May 8, 2018, Donald Trump, the United States President, withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal. And also European countries and United Nations have not followed this decision. The nuclear deal with Iran became almost useless. After the new U.S. government won the election, Joe Biden decided to start new rounds of negotiations with Iran to revive the nuclear deal. These negotiations still continues, and we hope that all parties reach an agreement and remove the sanctions in the near future. You also need to know some points about sanctions. The first one is primary U.S. sanctions, which prohibit U.S. companies and firms from conducting business with Iran. The second important term is secondary sanctions, which means other countries and companies from other countries are prohibited from doing business with Iran. If you have a company or business in the United States, or if you intend to transfer US dollar into the country, you have to know that it's very dangerous and you need to be careful because sanctions are still enforceable. And we recommend that you seek legal advice before doing business with Iran or bring your capital into the country. Thanks for your attention. Please subscribe our channel and stay tuned for our subsequent videos.